Hello everyone and welcome to Best Side Cycling. So today I'm here to unbox and go over this new AS2 Pro Max bicycle tire inflator that was sent over by Cycplus. They've sent me over the other version before this, so I was pretty excited that there was a new one because I really like that old one, and this one also includes like a PSI detector and everything. So we have the new one, and it's definitely bigger than the previous one. I'll get a good size comparison right after, but it comes in here, has a case on it already, and then there's 3 buttons now, and there's also this display here, which I presume reads the PSI. Let's look at what else is in here in the box. There is going to be a adapter here for the different hoses. There's a USB connector and things like that. So I think this time they've taken a sort of different approach, definitely a little bit more weighty. Let's see what this comes in and weighs at. But first impressions, definitely well built. I appreciate it has a case and everything. And let's see what's next. I wanted to just give you a quick look in terms of how we actually use this. So it's 3 buttons. The top button is still the power one. So once you hold onto that, you'll get this display. And then you'll basically have the battery reading here, PSI or bar, and then I guess what it's currently reading. And if you use the plus or bomb buttons, you can actually set the PSI that you're aiming for. So that's pretty neat. So I think its max is rated here for 120, which is definitely way higher than I'll need. So I'm gonna put it down to something that's probably more in the tubeless world, something like there. It goes all the way. I'm curious what the lower limit is. Maybe there is no lower limit here. So yeah, you can go all the way basically down to 3. So and it goes all the way up to 120. So I'm really curious now if it'll actually inflate to such PSI levels. So that's something we can definitely try out. Other than that, if you press both buttons together, then that switches it over to bar. If you prefer using that measurement, press those 2 buttons, the lower 2 together again, goes back to PSI. And then you press it once, it's gonna make a loud noise, just warning. But it starts and goes after pressing it once, and then if you hold the power again, it turns it off. So that's basically all the instructions with the buttons. Pretty simple. So yeah, really, let's go see how this compares with the old one really quick before we do the actual test runs. This is the Cube here, and now this is the AS2 Pro Max, and definitely there is a good size discrepancy here. So I've also got a mini scale here to actually get a full weight. So let's go ahead and see what that is. So I got the original one here, and it is reading at just about 115 grams for this smaller original one. So let's go take a look and see what the bigger one is like. So we put the new one, 233. So basically just twice as heavy from the old one. So definitely, let's see with that sort of trade-off and weight. I mean, for most people, it's not going to be that big a difference. I think it's just the form factor that's a little awkward. But with a PSI reader and possibly more power, I wonder how this is going to go. So let's go try it out on some tires and see what we end up with. All right, so we're here in my garage, and behind me I have 2 different wheel sets I want to try this out with. One that is a traditional sort of tubeless setup with 35mm tires. The max PSI this can go is 60. So this might be sort of tuned to what the old one was good for because the PSI levels weren't as high, but there's more volume in here. And then another one is the traditional road setup with a maximum PSI setup of 120. So I'm really curious if this can reach all the way there. And yeah, let's just see how that goes. So a few things to do. Let's get the setup here. And I already did, because basically all you have to do is put on this hose and the right attachment. The instruction manual does a much better job than me explaining which attachment you need to put on, but it's all there and it's very simple. So let's go ahead and try it out. I have it pretty locked in here. I'm gonna set it up to what I said earlier, to 60 PSI again. So let's have this knocked down to 60 and then just let it rip and let's see how much faster this is. Ready and go. So I figured I'd use this opportunity to show a 3-man race with me, myself, and I using a Lazine portable pump that's pretty big actually, and then a typical nice specialized floor pump, and then the new Pro Max. I am
really giving it my all, as you can tell on the bottom left, to go as fast as I can. And that one usually, yeah, it has a ton of volume, so it never has any issue. This also is my very first time using the Pro Max as well, so there's a tiny bit of a learning curve in terms of the attachment point and getting it going, but you can see me there. I'm just happily smiling. Look at the reading. Honestly, the very top left version of me is really not having a good time. I'm already getting super tired from everything, and looks like the bottom left, I'm taking a breather after going too hard. The thing with this setup is that it is a 35 millimeter tubeless one. There's quite a bit of volume compared to maybe some of my other tires that are more like 28 to 32, so I think that's sort of what's holding me back. So here I'm using my body weight in the bottom left to get across. On the top left, I feel like I'm probably just gonna give up because I'm not even close to finishing. So so still sitting pretty with the Pro Max now at about 55 psi, and I think pretty much just about done. But just for verbosity here, I would say that this is probably the point where it finishes up.
About good, and it just stopped right there, right above 5960. So let me take this hose off. But yeah, that was pretty impressive. I mean, that was 1/3 of the battery because one tick went off. Let's see in terms of a just raw PSI test how high this can go. Given how this went, I'm curious how the other one will go, because it's a lot less volume, but getting to 120 is sort of a different sort of task. So let's go and compare that. So yeah, now we're gonna get to the test that I think is the most exciting, is the highest PSI one, because I think the downside of the old model was that I couldn't reach above sort of 50 to 60 PSI super reliably. So I would say it was good for my road tubeless setups, but it was like just to get me going. But if this can go up to 120, then it's basically good for sort of any clincher setup, even more narrow tires. So let's go give this a go and see how it holds up. And yeah, gonna just turn it back on again. And then after having it set to the original 60 over there, we're gonna knock up the set PSI here all the way to 120 and just see how far it gets. All right, so it's all plugged in now. Let's see how this goes. Ready and going off.
So I'll just do a quick voiceover here and have this sped up. Really all the pumps are pretty consistent, and I mean for a full tire it usually is just about, yeah, 1.5 minutes at most. And then here you'll notice that I didn't actually get the attachment quite right. And once it gets to the higher PSI levels, it actually matters a lot for this. So make sure you do have it sort of tightened up correctly. I didn't have any issues with it pulling out the valve core or anything like that, especially for these inner tube setups anyway. And if you've been enjoying this video so far, remember to roll over that like button and subscribe. I cover all sorts of things Seattle cycling, but yeah, I'd love to just take my hand and just show off things that I think are pretty cool and get people on bikes. But it looks like we're getting super close. The pump has gone past the 100 PSI threshold, and I think it's definitely gonna make it at this rate. So just a little bit more and it's gonna be all done.
All right, it made it to 120. And this is actually my very first time just trying it out, because I just wanted to give it a really fair shake in terms of just honest first impressions. It's like decently warm to the touch, so if you're not expecting it, it might come off as really hot. But now I'm really convinced and really like this product, given that I feel it went beyond its original weakness of not getting to high PSI levels. Now it can do that just fine. But yeah, this whole thing is super warm. After those two inflations, one of a 35 millimeter to 60 PSI, and then this 25 millimeter all the way to 120 PSI, we have it at one battery. All right, so I wanted to give my honest thoughts on this and compared with the old one and just it in general. So overall, pretty impressive. I would say the highlights there was that it was able to get that 25 millimeter tire all the way to 120 PSI, something that this other small one couldn't do. It does get decently warm, and I don't think it'll be able to do that more than 2 or 3 times. But really, on a ride, how many times do you need it to go? And then the other thing, in terms of the 35 millimeter one, I really appreciate the tire pressure gauge here, because the old one didn't have one. And then now that you have that, you sort of have a good ballpark and good idea of what you're doing. The main, of course, cons to this new one is mainly the form factor. I don't think 100 grams is gonna matter a ton to most people. It's just this might be a little bit of sort of bulky in someone's jersey pocket, or it might sort of feel awkward. But for me, especially like on my commuter bike with a rack and everything, this is definitely going to be an essential piece of kit for me. As you can see, I was struggling really much with trying to inflate it with a typical outdoor sort of pump, and yeah, I don't think I'm going to have that issue anymore. I'll have a link to the product below, as well as I have a discount code BESTSIDECYCLING you can use to get this off, and I really do think that this is a pretty cool piece of kit, and I really am going to have it with me for most of my rides. Maybe on the really climby routes, I'll use this one where I know it'll still get me home, and then for sort of really a pump replacement, I think this is my go-to from now on. So let me know what your thoughts are. If you have any more questions, things I can answer or test, I'd be happy to do that. And yeah, with that, see you all in the next video.